is very, very different from the sorts of programs that were being put together in the past. There's very much clearer transparency in terms of the counterparty and the way that they're structured. When we look to perhaps the more traditional aspect, it's interesting that companies like Amden were able to go back to their traditional names to find some capital for a reinsurance project that they were working on. It's also interesting that in this latest story that we did on Friday about Kiln, that their new unit is being provided as a reinsurer for a sort of intra-group reinsurer for their ultimate parent, Tokyo Marine. So I think that it's fair to say that there are opportunities from the newer Cat Bond style projects, but I think at the same time what we're more likely to see is that the traditional reinsurance arm is going to be very powerful this year.
I would say so. Let me go off script a little bit and ask you this one final question. As you know, these AIG bonuses over here have attracted much consternation amongst the Main Street types as well as everybody. And I noticed an article this morning saying that the Dutch over at ING are pleading with the people who have received bonuses to return them voluntarily, and Societe Generale has even jumped on board asking the same of their executives. I just have to ask you this question because people ask me this question all the time about AIG. The American government standard answer for AIG is that it's too big to fail and that if it ever went under and we stopped supporting them, the whole system would collapse. If somebody asked you that question at a cocktail party, I mean, what would your answer be? You're sitting right there in the cockpit, so to speak, of Lloyd's and hearing everything. I mean, if AIG was a company that had the plug pulled on it by the government of the United States, I mean, would the catastrophe be as far-seeing as the Treasury Secretary has said?
Well, it's a very, very good question. It's a very difficult question to answer. I think that there are a number of things that would have happened without a shadow of a doubt. Firstly, that people's confidence in the insurance industry as a whole would take would be severely dented. I mean, I think it's probably fair to say that it has already. I mean, perhaps you and I might agree that it's rather unfair the way that the insurance industry as a whole has been tainted by its association, if you will, with AIG. At the same time, whether you can say a company is too big to fail, I think it's a very difficult question as to where you draw that line. We, as you'll be aware, of having our own issue with bonuses in this country as well, with the situation where people who've been paid bonuses by companies that are now largely government and taxpayer run are being asked either to withdraw, to pay them back, or to have them severely curtailed. Indeed, not just bonuses, but pensions as well. And so there's a very real concern, I think, amongst the taxpayer generally and the public at large, that they don't want people who they're perceived to have been the causes of their own downfall rewarded like that, particularly with taxpayer money.
Well, that's certainly for sure. Hopefully, I think speaking for everybody, we've reached the bottom and things will begin to go back up. So, well, Richard, thank you very much for your thoughts today, and we will certainly keep in touch with you in the future. We enjoy reading your publication, as I know many of our viewers do.
Well, that's very kind. It's been a great pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you, sir. In the upper Midwest of the United States, officials in Minnesota and North Dakota are pleading for volunteers to come help with sandbagging efforts. The Red River of the North is already about 3 feet above flood stage, and more water is on the way. The Red River is expected to crest between 39 and 41 feet in Fargo by Friday at the end of this week, a day earlier and a foot higher than expected. The city has loaded approximately 1.2 million sandbags already. They need another million to go. When this Red River flooded 3 years ago, the losses were over $2 billion. There was another plane crash as well over the weekend. This one a little bit out to the west of North Dakota in Butte, Montana. A single-engine turboprop plane crashed just short of the Butte airport. Apparently it had jerked to the left before nosediving into a cemetery. killing all 14 people aboard. One witness told the CBS News Early Show this morning that he thought he was watching a stunt plane because the pilot was making so many turns. The death toll of 14 has been confirmed by the FAA. An earlier count had it at 17. The plane is shown here. It was a Pilatus PC-12 made in Switzerland. It was believed to be taking its occupants on a ski trip to Montana. Its capacity is 12 adults. It's not known whether the extra people aboard were a factor, since 7 of the victims were in fact children. We'll now go to a word from our sponsors. The stock market is still robust. It's up about 276 points, and we'll come back after that with the rest of the news.
Every day, the world wakes up and goes to work, pursuing the unique opportunities that lead the global economy forward. The complexity and close connectivity of today's global marketplace is a true modern miracle that can create unparalleled success. But it takes confidence, passion, innovation, and understanding.
Enabling opportunity. Protecting capital.
Engineering innovation.
Investing in your future.
Ensuring continuity.
Finding the right balance.
It takes Aon.
The Vice Chairman of the People's Bank of China confirmed this morning that China will continue to purchase U.S. Treasuries and support the dollar's role as a global currency. U.S. government debt is viewed as, quote, an important element of China's investment strategy of its foreign currency reserves. This is being reported by Bloomberg News. The comments were seen as time to help support the Obama administration's efforts to revive the economy. Asian stocks really rallied sharply during the night in the U.S. The Nikkei in Tokyo jumped 3.4%, Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index up 4.8%, and South Korea's Kospi Index added 2.4%. The bond purchases were also announced by the Chinese People's Bank for the International Monetary Fund. They're studying a proposal to purchase bonds issued directly by the IMF. All of these comments were made to reporters at a briefing ahead of next week's meeting of the Group of 20 Nations in London. The Occupational Safety and Health Administration, an arm of the U.S. government, has determined that ExxonMobil exposed its employees at its second largest oil refinery to life-threatening conditions by failing to implement an emergency plan. This occurred when Hurricane Gustav struck the U.S. Gulf Coast last year. Exxon did not shut down its Baton Rouge, Louisiana refinery prior to the hurricane's landfall and had to subsequently do an emergency shutdown of the plant during the brunt of the hurricane. The refinery was closed for several days after Gustav hit on September the 1st. OSHA has proposed a penalty of $5,000 and categorized the violation as serious. OSHA's categorization of a violation as serious means, quote, there is a